Welcome back to the Bullpen on the Horn Takes podcast, the internet show all about Texas baseball. Joining me tonight, Zach Sim of OrangeBloods.com. Marc Pena could not be with us tonight, a little under the weather. What did he get? What did he catch out there?
He's got
Zach?
the bird flu, man.
Yeah, he got the bird flu out there at Occupy Left Field. Seriously, though, Marc is not feeling well. I guess he left work early today, not feeling well. So you guys be thinking about Marc out there. Make sure to follow us all on X for all the latest on Texas baseball. Subscribe, get notified for all of our latest content on the YouTube channel at Horn Takes. Make sure you guys get over to ChinookCeatery.com. Check out all the variety of delicious seeds. Use our promo code Horn Takes over there. You get 10% off your order. Texas company, lover of college baseball company. So give those guys your support, and you can help us out a little bit too as well. So make sure you guys do that. If you're in the chat, we love to answer your questions. We love to highlight your comments. So jump in, drop your comments, drop your chats. Before we get started on baseball, got to talk about those Lady Horns a little bit. They advanced to their second straight Women's College World Series, and I believe third out of the last 4 seasons they've advanced to the final. So obviously that program rolling right along. They knock off the Lady Vols today, 2-0. Senior Mac Morgan gets the start on the, what do they call it? In the circle, right? That's what they call it in softball, in the circle. Mac Morgan gets the start in the circle, gets the W, only gives up 3 hits over 4 innings. She had 4 Ks, which is something Mac Morgan apparently doesn't do a lot of. She's more of a contact type pitcher, but she had the Lady Vols number a little bit today. And then, of course, Tegan Cavan comes in. Is it Cavan or Cavan? I feel like I've heard it. Cavan, okay. Tegan Cavan comes in to finish it off in the 5th. Big knock of the game. Katie Stewart solo shot in the 4th. From the on-field angle, it looked like it barely got out, but then they showed it again from sort of outside the wall, and they cleared it pretty good, I thought. Exciting times for these Texas Longhorns. I had down here they're going to take on the winner of Oklahoma and Texas Tech, but Texas Tech, wow, what a game. So I heard him saying right before that last pitch that Oklahoma eliminated Najari, and I forgot her last name. The pitcher that was at Stanford last year that's with Tech now, Canada, eliminated her on the almost exact same type of deal. 2 outs, 2 strikes, hit a 2-run blast, and then they do it again to tie it in the top of the 6th. But Tech able to come back and put a couple runs up. So what do we think going into this one? I know Texas has already played Oklahoma, obviously. Very recently. They played Tech a couple times earlier this season. I'm assuming it's some sort of little round robin type deal. They played them twice though. Got them 2-1 with Kennedy on the hill, or in the circle rather. I'm going to mess that up continuously. And then they beat them 11-0 in 5 innings without Kennedy pitching. So obviously Kennedy is the huge sort of key to this Texas Tech pitching staff and defense. What are we thinking about this one? Who did you hope we played?
I have no clue. I mean, if you look at the stats between Texas and OU, it's not very good in the College World Series. So
that's true.
Anyone other than OU is probably preferable.
Yeah, I think now Canada is salty, and she's like a 2-way player. I don't know how well she hits. I haven't followed a ton of softball this year, and I definitely haven't followed a ton of Texas Tech softball. But when she's in the circle, they are tough. They don't give up a lot of runs. But I think probably the lineup for Oklahoma scares you a lot worse than the lineup for Texas Tech. If you're going to roll dice, right? Like that doesn't mean it'll go their way, and Texas Tech won't have an offensive outburst. But I think if I had to pick, I would rather play Texas Tech as well. And that'll be kind of an interesting all-Texas deal. Texas Tech has never been to the Women's College World Series. Texas has never won it. So the final will be a new national champion this year. So congrats to those ladies. Keep at it. We'll hope they do more of those 11-0 ones than 2-1 ones for sure. I don't know if I can take any more heartbreaks, man. It's been a rough weekend for the Texas Longhorns, especially on the baseball diamond. Give us your thoughts on this weekend regional for the Texas Longhorns. What went wrong? Where did it skid off the tracks, man?
I think the unfortunate reality was the hitting kind of caught up to them, right? They did good enough starting pitching wise to put them into a position to succeed. Houston Christian really wasn't much of a contest in many ways because you knew that Texas could out-talent them, and Texas can't out-talent a lot of teams necessarily. Like that was the reality coming into this year with got a core group of guys that they inherited, that they knew what they were going to get from, and then you had a lot of pieces that they had to put together very quickly because, the portal just opened up for those that are listening right now today, right? Texas coaches didn't get working on the portal for another month from now last summer.
Right.
And if you think about the timing of that, I mean, that's insane, right? Like you already have you have teams out there that already have 3-4 guys committed from the portal. And people can say all they want about the portal, like tampering and everything else. When these kids enter with a do not contact tag and they commit the very next day, or, like they've already committed before they've even entered the portal, like there's, the agents and families and everything else. And so,
almost the kids don't even really have to be involved that much. They can have conversations with their family or conversations with their advisor about where they would like to go, possibly, and then and what kind of money they would like to be looking at, and then the advisor goes and does all that stuff on their behalf. No doubt about it. When someone jumps in the portal and is immediately gone, that has happened. Now, and I won't even call that tampering necessarily.
It is what it is now.
It's just the way it is, right? Yeah. It's open like that for everybody. So it's not like, you can't cry foul. You got to play the game, right? So if you're out there and you're sitting back and waiting for kids to contact you, it's you're probably going to get the shit end of the stick on that deal. That's an interesting point. This staff did not have a lot of time to bring in a lot of guys out of the portal. They kind of had to take what was there. They were able to get a couple late commits, get some guys out of the portal late, and really piece this thing together with a lot of pieces, especially in the lineup that were already here. We talked about it at the very beginning of the season. The pitching, 52% of it was gone, or maybe it was the other way around. They were returning 52% of their innings. And so that's a huge number, I feel like, for a pitching staff. We talk about this deal. Houston Christian, it was what it was. I figured that one. And I honestly, I really thought that they played a pretty decent game, except in a couple small spots against UTSA the first game. That was really a very winnable game.
Well, the problem was they let it get away from them, right? So they got that lead. And they had the one bad inning where, listen, when you're winning games by 2 runs, 3 runs, run, there's a really narrow margin of error, and their defense let them down. And, Galvan talked about it after the game. Like, it just kind of snowballed them. And before they could really kind of reach back and say, okay, we got this, they were down. And then they couldn't get out of it. Like, they just kind of the compounded mistakes just kept compounding, and then it got away from them. And so, that's baseball to some degree, but at the same time, you got those guys out there that are veterans. And you would have hoped that they would have been able to realize and say, hold on a second, like let's have a little mound visit just to say, hey, you, me, let's, shore things up. So it is what it is.
It seemed like in the 5th and the 6th inning of that first game, like everything that could go wrong kind of went wrong. You had pitchers that are usually really, really good at keeping people off the bases, getting on the bases. You had, to me, like the microcosm of that whole game and probably the weekend was the play where UTSA has a guy on first, he breaks to second, Mendoza breaks to the bag, and they hit the ball literally right behind Mendoza. Where, I mean, and it's not his fault. He was covering the bag. He was doing what he was supposed to be doing. If he fields that, it's probably a double play, probably a completely different game, and we're having probably a different conversation today than we're having right now. And as you've said multiple times, and I've heard Sloss say it multiple times, that's the margin of error you have in baseball when you start to get in these types of games. And it just really didn't go their way. You know, you mentioned the offense, and I think I didn't break it out by game. And actually, I don't know what they hit on the weekend, but I feel like unless my math was crazy, they hit 300 against that UTSA team over 2 games. They just couldn't do it with anybody on base. We stranded 23 guys in 2 games against UTSA. And I don't know how many times you're going to win ball games unless you're just playing really bad teams or your pitching just is absolute lockdown when you strand 23 guys in 2 games. So,
well, Coach talked about that last night after the game. He said, look, this was one of those games where we got hits. You know, the offense came through. They just didn't do it in bunches. They didn't string them together. And he said UTSA got hits, but they were all in micro bunches, right? They all came back to back to back. Or,
yeah.
You know, right in it, you know, whether you call that timely hitting, whether you call that clutch hitting, you know, the fact of the matter is, like, they were able to string those together, whereas Texas was just scattered throughout. And there just wasn't any offensive rhythm throughout. And that really hampered their ability to run, that hampered their ability to try to put pressure. So when they did try to press a little bit, or they did try to force the issue, you know, that's when things kind of went wrong for them. So it was just, you know, kind of compounding on the fact that they couldn't get them back-to-back hits. So.
Right. Yeah. And I think, you know, again, you go back and look at it with just kind of a non-biased eye. I mean, they put the ball in play a lot of times when they needed to. Let's give UTSA credit. They made some outstanding plays out in the outfield, especially in that second game. I mean, that kid that ran that one down, you got to feel bad for Jalen Flores on that. As bad as a time as Jalen Flores has had at the plate, and he did again this weekend, over this last, you know, I don't know, few weekends of baseball for the Longhorns, to stroke a ball like that and then the guy just run it down in the gap. I don't even know what was going through his mind. I could see it on his face though when he was standing there like, I cannot believe this shit.
He hit it 104 off the bat. And,
he massacred that ball.
I mean, it was tailing away too. It wasn't like it was coming. I mean, it was tailing away from Mason Lytle. But that's the thing, right? Like, everyone says, oh, you know, we need guys like that. These are guys, like, he's a JUCO kid, right? He's had a ton of injuries in his career. He's a super senior. The kid's like 24 years old. You know, UTSA is a very, very veteran team.
Yes.
And they've seen everything. They've been disciplined. They've gone through all the rigor. And that's not to say Texas, you know, isn't, or make excuses about them. But the matter of the fact is, like, that's a veteran team. And what do veteran teams typically end up doing? It's like they make the plays, right? You have good guys come through in the clutch. So, yeah,
you know, all joking aside, like, people are dogging the fact that Texas lost this thing to UTS. That's a good baseball team. It would not surprise me at all if they figured out a way to win that super regional and make it to Omaha. It'll take some luck, I think. Again, I think probably UCLA's roster is better. But when you play hard and you're willing to, like, run into fences to catch balls, and then you get up and make plays with the throw and things like that, I mean, you put yourself in position to win games. And they just I just felt like that team just continuously just fed off each other. It was like nobody wanted to be the guy that let them down. And not to say that other teams don't do that as well. And again, not taking anything away from Texas, but man, you're right. That's one of the things I kind of wrote down when I was thinking about this today was they seem just like a really scrappy team with a ton of experience. And we knew they could hit, and they do, man. They hit the ball really well. They just, they're just not intimidated at the plate, and they go up there. I mean, they took Burns. They turned Burns around 3 times in a row on pitches that were at least 96.
He didn't throw anything less than 97.
Okay, so yeah.
And he hit 100 for the first time all season.
Yeah.
But the three hits they got off him were all 97. And the problem with that was they were a little too flat. You know, he sometimes it's really good just to try to blow it by them, but you got to mix in the off speed to keep them honest, right? And he was just, hey, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to try to throw it by him. And that's fine. 9 times out of 10, that's going to work.
It just didn't.
But they sat there and they knew that he threw 97 and they were sitting on 97. And if it's flat, you know, it's just timing it up at that point, because then he comes back yesterday and on the Sunday night game, the elimination game, and he comes out and he's throwing 95 to 96. Like he had 197, but it was mostly 95 to 96. But he was mixing in an 82 mile an hour changeup.
Yep.
And an 87 to 88, that slider of his, and they couldn't hit that slide piece. And you throw that slide piece in the ground one time, it comes back with a fastball at 97. They had no shot, and they struck out. And like, I mean, it's just, you know, it's one of those things where, again, you call it baseball, but it's like those little moments where you think back and you're like, oh yeah, you know what? Retrospect, maybe we should have thrown a slider, but
right.
I bet if you looked at their metrics, I bet they don't see a lot of 97
right
on a daily basis, right? And so it's, you know, you look at the stats, you look at the analytics, and you say, hey, do I trust what I'm seeing, or do I trust what has happened for 50 something games all season long? So
yeah, and I think that's, I mean, we kind of talked about that a couple weeks ago. That's kind of like the good side of the metric piece that you know, baseball has become, I mean, it was always a statty type of sport. Obviously, there's like a stat for everything, but I feel like now that there's a lot more technology involved, you know, they're tracking spin rate. I mean, they're just tracking so many things with these pitchers and with hitters that they just couldn't do a few years ago. And so, yeah, it's great. It's great to have all that data, but I think sometimes it gets you too, because you go back to the data and then you kind of forget, hey, it's just a baseball game. Like if I just do some simple baseball things that are tried and true, and we, you know, people have been doing them for 100 years and being successful doing them. So yeah, interesting sort of, what is the word, dichotomy there? Maybe that's not the right word, but I'm going to use that word anyway. You can correct me in the chat if that's not the right word. I'll be happy to be wrong if I'm wrong. But yeah, I just thought they ran into a scrappy team. So congratulations to that UT. I mean, they've won 45 games, I think, maybe 46 at this point.
Yeah.
I don't care what league you were in. That's a lot of games to win. And they got some, I mean, they've got some players. They don't look like, you know, they don't look like SEC dudes all across that lineup, and all those pitchers don't look, but they can throw it and they can swing the bat. And so yeah.
Slaw Single says it's tournament baseball. Like, and, you know, you get down to one game, there's a guy that's hot that night, or just feeling it, or, you know, he's playing a little up. It's
yeah. I mean, I thought Sunday offensively Texas was really good. I mean, obviously they came out and just bombed Kansas State, hit the ball over the fence a few times, but I thought they swung it okay in that second game. Man, they just could not get the hit with guys in scoring position. And again, you got to credit that UTSA defense. They made a lot of plays in that game. Any last thoughts before we leave that one alone? Texas falls in their regional. Really, I mean, I think to me, disappointing outcome, obviously, because I felt like, and I think a lot of people felt like, this was a team that could certainly get to Omaha, and if they got there, anybody that gets to Omaha gets a chance, you know, has a chance. It was that type of team to me. But you look at it for the whole season, and we'll get into this a little more, but I'll just like whet the appetite a little bit. None of us were really talking about that at the beginning of the season. So certainly disappointing. I know you see fans on the line and they're losing their minds and saying a lot of incredibly stupid stuff, but I mean, it is what it is. Even I get emotional, folks, and sometimes say things that don't make a lot of sense. But yeah, any last thoughts on the series, the weekend, before we kind of start talking a little overall thoughts on this Texas baseball season?
No, I mean, I just, you watch the team for 50 something games, and you do get to know a lot of the players, a lot of families and all that. And you walk away and you're like, hey man, you can't be more happy for like Baloo coming back and fighting back, and he gets a home run in his last at bat.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah, that
something
was
he can
awesome.
cherish for years. Now, knowing him, he's pissed off. He's hurt,
Oh, yeah.
right? But like that's something that I think he'll look back upon and be like, yeah, what'd you do in your last at bat in college? Well, I hit a home run in a regional. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that was a really cool moment. I mean, to me, that was and you didn't see it as he was rounding the bases, but when he got back towards the dugout, just a lot of emotion for Max because he knew. He knew that was probably it for him at the dish. So and then we saw, most of you probably saw pictures of Shoes out on the Longhorn logo almost at midnight, just kind of sitting out there going like, damn, what the hell happened? So yeah, a lot of those guys some of those guys, it may be the last time they play baseball ever. Some of them, it'll certainly be the last time they play with this group of guys and in that type of environment. So that's if you played sports or done anything and put a lot of effort into it, you know that feeling, because it always comes to an end at some point. So yeah, tough for those guys. But again, I think positive things this season. You talked about it earlier in the show. Didn't have a lot of time to piece together a team. Probably didn't have the exact type of pieces that a Schlossnagle and his staff want to have on a team, but they were able to get them all together, get them all bought in. And I think he mentioned it after the game. What's the thing you're most proud of about this team? And he said the buy-in and the leadership. Like it was like they were one group of guys going forward, and it worked out really well for him for what, 4/5 of the season.
Yeah, and even then, they had a chance. They were in. It wasn't like they got blown out at the end of the season. Like they were there,
right?
Tennessee, they started a guy who had pitched 6 innings all season long, and they went to extras. They went to 12 innings. And that's a team that's headed to the Super Regionals. And so if you look at the teams that they beat, it's just you got to feel for those guys because everyone has been dogging on them for a little while, and then hey, they're super excited because they're the 2 seed, and then they don't get to Supers or they don't get to Omaha. And it was funny because Schlossnagle talked about it last night after the game. He said, look, I get it. The standard is Omaha. That does not change around here, right? Like we all want to win.
Sure.
But when people are acting like, hey, these kids aren't trying or they're not giving their all, it's like, man, you don't understand the amount of time. Like everyone sees them at the field during a game. But like,
right.
How much of their lives have they devoted, not just before college, but like in college to get to this point? And
yeah.
But yeah, it is what it is, man. It's baseball. So
yeah, I think people sometimes like neglect the human side of all this. Like, everybody just wants to win and everybody wants their team to win, but they kind of forget, and they really do forget that these are like young kids, basically. I mean, they're, my son is about to turn 20. A lot of these boys on this team, 20, some of them younger than that. And my son, love him to death, but he's just a kid. He doesn't know anything. So yeah, try to have some grace for the guys, man. They want to win as bad or probably way worse than you do. So if you can believe that. So we're starting to get some questions come in. Jared Jones asks, any chance Max or Galvan come back next year? I'll give my opinion and then I'll let you, because you're much closer. I think Max, absolutely no chance. I just saw, you never know, but I would say it's a very small chance if there's a chance. I just saw where he's like the 31st MLB prospect in a list that just dropped like a few days ago. I can't imagine he's done anything to hurt himself in that regard, which basically makes him like a fringe first rounder, right? Yeah, because there's 30 teams picking, so.
He's not a first rounder, but he's probably top 3. But yeah, I would say chances of Max Ballou being on campus next season are extraordinarily slim, and something special would have to happen. Like he would have to there'd have to be a group of guys, I would say, come back. It wouldn't just be like, oh, wait, got one guy back. That's not usually how it goes, right?
Sure.
And so this is where, a couple of seasons ago, there was a couple of guys that were waffling, hey, do I go to the draft? Do I come back? And there were some real conversations, like literally during the middle of the draft, like phone calls and text messages of kids. And I was talking to some of them, and I know they were talking to the coaches, and I was talking to some of the coaches, and it was like, wait, he's coming back? He's like, hold on, okay, here's my number. Here's where I think I'm going to get drafted. If I fall below this, maybe so. Like the fear of missing out is there when it's a group. And this, like I said, this is where those dynamics come into play. But no, I personally don't believe that Ballou or Galvan will be back next season. But again, that's one of those things where there's certainly going to be conversations. There have been conversations. Will they go anywhere? Probably not, but yeah.
I mean, again, I would say for Ballou, I would be just super surprised. Galvan, I think, had a great season and definitely, put himself in a spot. I forgot he was on that list. I don't remember exactly where it was, but it was like 100 and maybe like 131, somewhere around in there. So not a bad spot at all for, probably where he was at the beginning of the season. He's definitely played himself up in the draft, I would think, being an all SEC defender, being a first team SEC catcher.
Max has as well. Like if you think about him, so Schlossnagle talked about this. He's like, hey, he showed that he can take an injury and come back. He's like, some people would say, oh, what are you doing to your draft stock? In some ways, he's actually showing that, hey, man, I got to play 162 games potentially in the pros, like not 50 or 60 games. I can take a beating, and I have the ability to, be resilient, and that's going to say something to scouts and GM. So, yeah, I think both of them have done more than enough that they'll get their names called within the top 4 rounds for sure.
Sure. Yeah. So, and Jared, we'll get to some more of your questions. You're asking a lot of good questions. We got it on the lineup for the rest of the show. So hang out with us. Anybody else jump in the chat with your comments, questions? We sure do appreciate it. If you had to give like an elevator pitch, Zach, of this team this year, like just the season, how would that sound like to you? Like this is my short little synopsis of the season for these Texas Longhorns in 2025.
I think it was a super successful season personally. I think this team came together very early on and was able to, it sounds coachy, but buy in to what the coaches were saying and following in the approach. And, they came together, and it was just a team that really liked playing together. And as a result, it showed. And they ran their race as long as they could.
Yeah.
I think the big fall down was Jared Spencer, not having him erased that margin of error that allowed them. And obviously you still have to hit the baseball and score runs. It was more so the factor of just having that reliance, being like, hey, that's our dude right there. I think that took a lot out of him. I think losing Max Ballou took a lot out of him.
Yep. Because
you saw what happened when he came back. And it took him a while to get back into form. It wasn't Max normal, but I think it was a super successful season. I don't think you can take anything away from that, even though they didn't get to Omaha. Yeah, but
yeah, I mean, SEC regular season champs in their first go. I think that is big. That's not an easy league. That's not an easy league to just not get your ass kicked in, much less an easy one to go out and win by a couple of games. They were number 1 in the country for, I believe, 3 straight weeks. They beat some really good teams. They won some series against some really good teams. They swept they swept a Georgia team that was killing it. They swept a Auburn team that's advanced to the supers. And they beat an LSU team here at the Dish in a 3-game series that I don't know what that score is of that game right now, but I feel like the last time I looked, LSU. Yeah.
But the other thing I would say about this season was I think for all those people out there that doubted, hey, Texas can come in and compete in the SEC, all of a sudden it's like, oh shit. Like,
yeah. I mean, you have to take them seriously because they're going to do well in the portal now that they have the time to do well in the portal.
Yeah,
they've already got the number 3 2025 class according to Perfect Game. They've got the number 1 2026 class. I don't know how the 27 class is completely shaped up, but Schlossnagle's going to be able to recruit, and he's going to be able to go out and get guys out of the portal that he wants. And there's going to be a lot of good baseball players out there in the portal here. I mean, there's already a lot of good baseball players out there, but shortly there will be a whole lot more players to kind of sift through and work through. I think for me, I think they definitely exceeded my expectations. I know there's the super regional or bus crowd, and I know there's even the Omaha or bus crowd, and I get it. I think under the proper circumstances, that's fair. But I think if you look at where this team was, and even though it is Jim Schlossnagle, one of the best coaches in college baseball, and even though he did bring his staff, this was still not a roster that was put together in a way that they should have been able to go and do what they did this year. And so for them to be able to do that for as long as they did, certainly outstanding. You mentioned the injuries. The Jared Spencer injury was just – that threw them into a mess because we talked all season about being able to stay on time pitching. And they were able to do that because they had Jared Spencer and they had Luke Harrison. And then they could piece together Sundays in the back halves of those Friday and Saturday games. And when Jared Spencer goes out, you had to pull Riojas in, and he did pretty well at first. Then the sickness hit and, all that stuff. And just kind of I think everybody towards the end of the season just kind of gassed mentally, physically, probably emotionally. It's a long season, and I think we just saw them kind of hit a wall, and they stopped getting the hits they were getting earlier, and they stopped being able to keep people off the bases like they were. The hit batsmen, even though we hit 100 plus this year, it got more and more and more over the course of these last few weekends. So they start out 38-5. They go 6-9 over their last 15. I'd also say I thought the pitching, to me, was probably the biggest surprise, a positive surprise. I felt like offensively this team might be a little better than they were because we had some guys that didn't do as well this year as we thought they probably would, and then we obviously had the injuries, so there was a whole lot of shuffle with that. Just trying to figure out who needs to be in, who needs to be out, and all that stuff. So, man, I think if you really back away from it and look at the season just sort of in a vacuum of just this season, given what they had coming in, man, I thought it was a really good season.
Yeah, I think if you break it down between hitting and pitching, the pitching, they way over delivered. I mean, that's just a fact, right? Like, you look at pure numbers, you look at the guys that they had pitching, they way over delivered. And then you look at the hitting side, and to some degree, you have to say, that's what they were supposed to be counting on the most, right? Coming into the season, it was like, hey, this is a team that's going to be able to hit, but they're probably going to need to score a lot of runs in order to make up for the pitching, which could be cobbled together because you got a lot of bullpen guys that are trying to fit their way into starter roles or wherever else. And, it's one of those things where the reality of competition, Jalen Flores, he hit 100 points less than he did last year. Gasparino hit about what he did last year, but didn't take to that next level that everyone expected him to. You take Mendoza, who was a superstar, right? I mean, he was huge for Texas. Galvan took his game to the next level. But even a guy like Schussler, as big as he was for Texas, he hit 348 or something like that last season. And this season he's hitting right at 300. So 30, 40 points less. And that's not a knock on Schussler. Like, Schussler was a mainstay.
Sure.
But you're also playing in the SEC. It's a different level of competition.
Right.
And so you kind of have to adjust your sliding scale a little bit. Now, were they as good as I thought they were going to do? No, I still think I expected them to perform a little different standard personally, but it takes time. One of the favorite stats that Schlossnagle kept saying very early on was, look, a guy like Jalen Flores saw just over 100 fastballs that were 94 or better in the Big 12. He's like, the equivalent shortstop at A&M last season saw over almost 400.
Yeah.
And so you think about just pure stuff, right? Like, that's different. It's very, very different. And so,
you watch the end of that Tennessee game. Towards the end of that Tennessee game, I forgot the kid that was in, but he was pumping up 100, and then they bring in Liam Doyle, and he's raking it in 99, 98 to get a strikeout, his first batter. So you're just never going to see that like in maybe in the ACC, but you're definitely not going to see that in any of the other leagues where it's just like guy after guy is coming out of the bullpen and just tossing 100 like it's nothing. So yeah, certainly a different animal in the SEC. But I thought they they hung tough, and not only that, they actually were the cream of the crop in the SEC for a while. And ultimately over that 10 weeks of SEC play, they were the best team out of all of them. So I get it. You would love to win your regional. I'm disappointed that we did not make the super regional for sure. And I almost think if we get out of that region, the super regional is probably easier for us. It's just to me, it's a different thing. And maybe I'm off on that, but when you've got 3 teams that you're having to worry about over a weekend, a lot different to me than playing the same team 3 games.
Well, having to play those back-to-back games in one day is
sure.
It's just so tough. I mean, that's why they say like winning the first game is important, but winning the second game is so vital because you don't get any break. It's like, hey, they were taking guys out to send them into the locker room to get IVs because they knew, hey, man, we got to turn around in an hour and play another game. So, but then offensively, like they played in. So when they scored 7 runs or more, I looked this up. They had 28 games that they scored 7 runs or more, and this is out of the 55 they played or 56. In those games, they were 25-3. Their 3 losses were to UTSA, and Arkansas.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the fact of the matter is, like, they were there. I mean, if you offensively, everyone likes to complain about the approach because it's different than what they normally see. I hate to tell them, like, this is a very, very valid approach. Like it works. And again, there's guys that they're going to get in there that you're going to see all of a sudden have the exact same approach they had this year. And they're going to score 40 games that they score 7 or more, or they're going to have, they're going to be 30-0 in those 7 games when they're scoring 7 or more. It's just,
right.
And even when they scored less than 7 runs, they were still 18-9, or well, technically, I guess 18-10. So, yeah. So I saw the question. It said, "Is it because the take a pitch game?" No, not necessarily. Like they had to make adjustments, and this is a brand new offensive philosophy for a lot of them. So you're gonna have bumps in the road. But it's like at the beginning of the season, everyone was like, "Oh my God, this team is terribly defensive." Defensive play. All these errors.
Yeah.
They ended up being at the very top of the SEC in the defensively. Yeah. So like, it's just.
Yeah, that's a good point that you're bringing up because it is a lot about the process, and it kind of takes me back to the first year Steve Sarkisian was there at Texas. How they lost like 5 straight games where they had the lead. 5 and 4 of them, I believe, were Big 12 games. I'm probably off on the numbers, but they lost a bunch of games with the lead going into the second half, and 4 of them, they had second half leads that they lost, and they were Big 12 games. And I was just going, man, like, what are we doing? So, and I guess I get like you want to build your process and you want to go through your process. It just, to me, it kind of hurts and it kind of sucks sometimes that you have to sacrifice now for that. Because I think if you look at this team, everybody knows Sloss wants people taking pitches. He talked about it during the interview. I don't know if you got to see that, Zach, but he was really upset when they got him on that interview on Sunday, just because he even said it. Our 2 and 3 guy got 2 outs on 3 pitches or something like that. So you could tell he was not happy about the way they were handling the approach. But then you look at the guys, and so many of them struggle with that approach. I think
it's a mindset. You have to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, right?
Yes.
You have to go up there and say, I'm going to take this approach. I'm going to look at it in this way. I'm going to look and everyone thinks, oh, they're just taking pitches. You will never hear the word take the first pitch. You will never hear the word do not move the bat off your shoulder for the first 2 pitches. That's not what it's about. Like, and I think that's one of the things that, like, from a philosophy standpoint, people don't realize is the approach is not just to not swing the bat. It's about watching and forcing the pitcher to perform. Because at college baseball, he was telling me some stats, and he's like, look, the percentage of strikes that are in the zone is like minuscule. It's like less than 10%. He said, so make them throw the ball in the zone. Right. And when they do, go punish them. Right. Because he always says it's hard to hit a breaking ball. Well, if it's a really good breaking ball, you're going to have foul it off, pop it off, whatever else. But so they were fastball first team, and they were looking for that fastball. They were looking for their pitch. It wasn't like they were just going up there to say, I'm not going to pitch, or I'm not going to hit. Just throw it down.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. It's being comfortable in those uncomfortable situations, and I think what we saw is a few of the guys for sure clearly never got comfortable in those uncomfortable situations. So they would go up there with the approach. They would, they were doing what the coaches were asking them to do. But then when they did get down 0-1 or 0-2, they really struggled to lay off of the stuff out of the zone because, you're 0-2. You don't want to watch a pitch go over the plate. You certainly don't want to do that. So they get started, and then it's too late, and then they're swinging at a pitch that's out of the zone, never is a strike. So yeah, and again, going back to my comment about Sark, same type of deal. Like, Texas fans had to get comfortable with the fact that he was trying to build a team for the future while he was trying to win games right now. Mm-hmm. And the only way you can really do that is by doing what you're going to do in a few years. And the hope is you get some guys in there that can buy into that and be more comfortable with that and be able to execute that type of philosophy a little bit better. And again, I'm not bashing any of the guys this year. I thought for the most part, most of this year, the team did it really well. It just started to kind of rear its head a little bit late in the season when for whatever reason, people just kind of got out of that mindset, right? Like, I'm okay. I'm 0-2, but I'm okay.
Analytically, they also played the toughest teams towards the end of the season. Like, their SEC schedule was backloaded, meaning they played easier teams up front, and on the back end, they were playing much, much tougher teams. And
you play Arkansas.
Also happened to coincide with the loss of Max Ballou, Adrian Rodriguez having to hit from a left side because to the very end of the game, he's out there just battling that hand injury. Yeah. Like, I don't think people understand that. This was a team that was also very banged up. Injuries did play and not to use excuses, as every team has injuries, but like they were banged up, and there was only 10 or 11 guys they trusted to be at the plate, and those were the guys that played. And most years you see a catcher get rotated in and out, and Galvan was a freaking monster.
Galvan was a freaking champ this year behind the plate because not only did he play a lot of innings, but he just got thumped around in those innings. He took some freaking shots all season long. So yeah, man. Again, I say really good season. Exceeded my expectations. Disappointed with the end, sure. But I look at this program and I look at what we could look like next year, Zach. Let's talk about that a little bit. There's already been some guys that are absolutely out. Matt Scott, Donovan Jordan, Chance Covert all announced today that they are entering the transfer portal. I am sure there will be discussions, exit interview type things, and maybe those have already started with certain players, but that'll go on probably for the rest of this week, and I would not be surprised if we saw some more. What do you think? To me, Zach, I look at it and I feel like I know we're going to have to replace Kimball Schuessler. I know we're going to have to replace Max Ballou. I feel like Rylan Galvan is a guy that we're probably going to have to replace. I think we've got a good replacement for him. I think Cole Chamberlain is a guy that can step in there and play catcher. I know they really liked his bat at the beginning of the season, and they pinch hit him in a lot of situations. I don't know what that means. Maybe it's a situation where
it's about approach and situational hitting. Chamberlain, I really like. Chamberlain was one of the guys that I was the most impressed with his hit tool when I came and saw the team in the fall a lot. One, he has a really good feel for the plate, and that's why you see him walk a lot. But again, it's one of those things where he bought into the approach immediately.
Sure.
And everyone's like, oh, well, blah, blah. The guy was getting time because he bought in, and you saw his walk numbers were ridiculous. Now,
he
needs to work
did well.
now is to not be so pull happy, because the reason teams shifted everyone to the right and formed the freaking border wall, because he needs to learn how to use opposite field or go up the middle. And that's just a timing thing. That's getting used to being a hitter at this level. So
Yeah, I made a tweet. I did a tweet at one point earlier this season that if the shift was illegal, he would be batting like 1,000 or something, because every time he put the ball in play, he hit it hard, and he hit it right to somebody that was in the shift. I think Cole Chamberlain, and I think defensively he's a guy. I mean, we didn't see him a ton, but I thought in opportunities where and I don't have the stat in front of me, I feel like I saw him throw some guys out this year. That were trying to pick off second base. So I think he certainly is not a liability in that respect. And as catchers do, he'll probably get better and better over time. A couple of it that I'm kind of on the fence about, and maybe one of them is going to sound crazy to you probably, but like Flores is a guy that, decided to come back for this year because he thought he could improve his draft stock. It hasn't gone well for him this year. So I mean, it's still pretty high though. He's probably not as high as he was, but I think he's still like in the top 200 prospects according to MLB. So he'd be in the top half of the draft, I would feel like. And this is high school and college, so this is not just broken off by one or the other. So I feel like he's a guy that might just go, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and start my professional career. And another one, and again, Will Gasparino is a draft eligible sophomore. And I think he's a guy, and I've talked about it on this show. He's the type of guy that if he can get that approach fixed, he can be like a really dangerous offensive player. And he already has the defensive tool. He's a very, very good defender. Is he a guy, and just in your opinion?
Gasparino's not draft eligible till next season, dude.
He's not? Are you sure?
Yeah, Logan's right. I'm positive. Yeah.
Okay. I thought I saw where he was. I thought we've been talking about that. I thought we talked about that on this show. So never mind.
No, he would be 26 draft, not 25 draft.
Fair enough. So we don't even have to talk about it. Now, okay. Let's get really out there. No, we won't do that. Pitchers we're losing. We're losing Grubbs. We're losing Spencer.
Not losing Grubbs.
Huh?
Not losing Grubbs.
We're not Grubbs isn't a senior?
No.
Oh my God. I didn't do good. So great. Grubbs is coming back. So Spencer's out.
Yes.
Harris and Riojas are eligible to be drafted, correct?
They are eligible.
Sonye's a guy that's draft eligible too, right?
I mean, he's eligible, yes, but he won't get drafted. If I had to put odds on it, I would say odds are that you get both or all four of those guys back.
So you think we get Grubbs? Man, I gotta. Why did I think Grubbs was a senior?
Grubbs was
a junior, so he's draft eligible. He's draft eligible, right?
He's draft eligible, but
okay, yeah, fair enough. Gotcha. Okay. Well, I would love to have Grubbs back because I thought he had a really good season. So having heard that,
I'll break it down to like this: there's 3 guys that are already in the portal. There are at least 3 more that you will likely see their names this week, right? So Matt Scott the second, Chance Covert the second, and Donovan Jordan are all in the portal already.
Right.
I would not be surprised, shocked, or otherwise. In fact, I would absolutely count on seeing Ace Whitehead, Sam Richardson, and Easton Toomas all in the draft or in the portal by the end of this week or next week. The guys that I have counted out as gone are Jalen Flores, Rylan Galvan, Will Gasparino, Kimball Schuessler, Jared Spencer, Will Mercer, Max Blue, and Andre Duplantier.
You just
I'm not saying how they go, whether MLB draft or otherwise, but those are the guys. Those are 8. I also have will not be back next season.
Say those names again.
Flores, Galvan, Gaspo, Schussler, Spencer, Mercer, Ballou, Duplantier. Andre Duplantier.
Andre, big brother. Unc. Yeah. Okay.
Now, the guys that I have in my middle pile, I've got all these piles, right?
Right.
So you got what's in the portal, what I expect to be in the portal already, who I expect to be gone off the roster one way or the other. And then I think there's some questions about guys that the staff have to answer and or the guys themselves have to answer, right? So Jaden Duplantier, what does his future look like?
Right.
Aiden Moffett, I think will be back. I think there's enough there. You know, he's been playing through an injury this season that limited him, but I think there's enough there that you bring him back. Connor McCreary is another guy that was injured most of the season. I think he'll be back. You know, a guy like Jock Stewart. What does his future look like? You know, in a perfect world, he's able to catch up to the competition because of that left-handed bat. But I could also see where he says, you know what, I didn't get the playing time I maybe wanted to. I want to go play every day, right? And then the other two guys are Oliver Service and Carson Luna. Luna was a freshman this year that redshirted, so his clock hasn't been burned. You know, he's there, but he's the guy that plays shortstop. But you know, realistically, they're going to probably go hit shortstop in the portal. So, do you take that chance, or do you think, hey, maybe I can be the backup guy, right? So, but Carson Luna also is a guy that might look at what's coming in the freshman class and say, hey, if this guy makes it, I really need to get the heck out of here, right?
Yeah.
Or if this guy doesn't make it, okay, my chances just got that much better.
Up a little bit,
right?
Yeah,
but yeah.
Scholarship limits roster size is going down, correct?
To 34, yes.
Okay, so before it was 40, now it's 34, correct?
Well, this house settlement still has not been signed, but yes, so it's going to go from 40 to 34. Now, where the house settlement really comes into play is the grandfathered portion. There are several guys on the team that could be grandfathered into saying, hey, like you could be on the roster and it wouldn't count against the 34. So how does that factor in, right?
Right. And when we say 34 on the roster, we literally mean like not 34 travel, not like we're saying there will only be 34 baseball players, pitchers and hitters combined on these rosters.
For, again, like if you had a guy that was grandfathered in, you might have technically 35, but yes. Yeah.
Okay. So 5 years from now, once the grandfathering is over, we're going to have 34 baseball players. So that even makes it more difficult, right?
And then you've got some really tough conversations with kids, and there might even be a kid or two in the incoming class that there's still a tough conversation around, depending upon like, hey, look, you know, here's what we have. Here's what the reality is with these roster limits that are being set. Here's what we're bringing in from a portal. I mean, that's the side of baseball that no one likes to talk about because it's not easy. It sucks.
Yeah, it is what it is, right?
I mean, reality, right? Like,
absolutely. I mean, there are travel teams that have those conversations with 12-year-olds. So it certainly happens at college. So we got 3 guys we know are out. You rattled off about 8 guys that you think you're pretty confident will not be at the University of Texas next year, aside from those. So that's 11. That brings us down to, let's say, what, 29?
So my number is I have 14 guys that I don't think off the current roster will not be back next season.
So 14 off the current, that takes us down to what, 26? So now we got 9 spots.
And then there's another 6 guys that I think are questionable. I think at least 3 of them end up back. So call it 4 more guys. So like 18 guys that I think are on the fence of, you know, you might see them, you might not see them, which brings you to like, about 24 guys I think are on the roster right now that probably have a spot for next season.
And the number 3 recruiting class in 2025 has 18 current commits. 11 of those are pitchers. So there's only 7 field guys. Jonah Williams, one of those guys, he's already in, obviously. Who are we likely to get on? I mean, I look at this class.
2025 class only has 17 guys. Jonah Williams doesn't count against it.
Fair enough. I'm just saying he was part of that 18th committed, or he was one of the 18 that was committed in the 2025 class. He's obviously already here. So there's 17 kids left. 11 of those are pitchers. 2 of them, the highest 2 rated guys, and these are both, to me, these are guys that are probably first rounders. If you just look at their projection, their prospect ranking, shortstop Kason Cunningham, third base Gavin Fine. What are the odds those guys actually make it on campus?
Low. I would say very low. I'm not going to get anyone's hopes up. Gavin has had an interesting spring, but he's still got quite a bit of helium. He's a kid. I just don't. The coaches have been working on that one for a while. I just don't see it going their way at the end of the day. Kason's a more interesting case study. His size of recruit doesn't have a great amount of success at the MLB level, right? He's
not a big guy at all. Yeah.
He plays shortstop. He's got good tools, very, very, very good tools. But his tools most likely translate to being a second baseman at the next level. So if you're a GM, you look at size, you look at tools, you look at projections, and you say, okay, we're going to slot him, here. Now, if you look at the projections, he's anywhere between top 15 kid and borderline bottom of the first round. Then you have to look at, well, what is his number that he's looking to get out of the draft? And, if he's able to fall out of the first round, your odds probably skyrocket. But if he's taken in the first round, he's probably almost assuredly gone. And I think he will get taken in the first round personally. But I mean, there was a time 3 months ago where Kason and Gavin were both in the top 18 draft picks. So,
yeah, and right. I mean, if you look at their prospect ranking, they're still both, and I think they still are both in the top 18. They're certainly up there.
They're in there for high school kids, but you have to factor in the college kids, the JUCO kids. So,
this was college and high school.
Yeah,
they were well established in the top 30.
Both of them took quite the fall. So,
fair enough. Too early to talk portal targets.
So, but then, staying on the high school side,
yeah, let's do that.
Anthony Pack is a kid out of California that is very, very good. There's some holes in his swing, holes in his game. Super uber athletic guy, but he's more of a gamer. He's a very interesting kid in that the scouts love him during the game, but he doesn't necessarily show up on tape super well. And so that's affected. You have some scouts that absolutely love him, and he's going to get, he'll get a chance. I don't know what his number is personally, but I don't have him making it to campus for that reason, just because he seems like one of those kids that probably is leaning towards going pro. And then you get into the next group of kids. So Jack McKernan is a kid, left-handed pitcher, where it feels like a lot rests on him. That's a kid that's one of those borderlines that you want to make to campus. That is probably the best pitcher out of the group that they have recruited. And he's a guy that would be an instant impact for next year. And he's a guy that you start sweating a lot on draft day. Now, he's not going to be a round one kind of guy, but you will sweat whether he makes it to campus. Sam Cozart is locked in. He is coming to school. Cooper Rummel locked in. He is coming to school. Robert Xavier Mitchell, he's locked in. He's coming to school. Brody Walls is another guy who's got big plus stuff that could very well be a contributor next season. He's a guy that you're probably going to have to sweat a little bit on draft day. I personally think he makes it based on what I've talked to him and those around him. And then Brett Crossland is the big time arm out of Arizona, where he's got a high number. He's got plus stuff, and he's probably a guy that you sweat. He's probably more willing to sign than some of the others. At the same time, I think there's an argument to be made that if he does make it to campus, he can make a heck of a lot more money if he does make it to campus than signing right out of high school. So
Yeah, and you just rattled off a bunch of names for those that don't have the list right in front of them like I do. That's a bunch of pitchers, and about 4 of the 5 or 6 that you talked about are some really big-bodied kids, like 6'5", 240, 6'3", 220, 6'8", 252, like the 6'5", 220. These are some big kids, and we've been talking about it all year. These big, powerful, SEC pitchers. These are these types of guys.
And when you talk about stuff, right? Like not just the mental makeup, because Cooper Rummel has some of the best mental makeup in the game. Sam Cozart has some of the best preparation and mental makeup in the game. Jack McKernan's a guy that just like he's a savage. He's a dog on the mound. But when you look at Cooper Rummel, Crossland, Sam Cozart, Brody Walls, Caleb Rogers, Grayson Bowles, all of that group of guys right there are all guys that can throw 94 plus. And I mean, Crossland is up. He's been 97, 98. He's actually done better and pitched better when he's throwing more 95, 96, but he can run it up there. And same thing with Cooper Rummel. I mean, he's hit 97, 98. Like they are bringing some stuff to the mound for the Arm Farm. And it's no longer going to be the Arm Farm. He's going to have to change his name. It's going to be the Arm Army. I mean, the way he's recruiting pitchers out of the 25 and 26 classes is quite insane. But yeah, so there's some really big talent coming to school, and they're really excited about that.
Yeah, so I think it looks like pitching wise, and you just look at the class on the surface, and it's a ton of pitchers. Looks like pitching wise, they're going to have some guys at their disposal next year if they can get some of these guys to come in, which it sounds like a lot of them are already locked in, which is outstanding news for Texas.
Yeah.
It looks like to fill in some of these spots, maybe out in the field, we're going to have to go hunting in the portal. Is it too early to be talking about portal guys that this staff may go after? I'm sure they all keep lists, just like ADs keep lists of coaches or good ADs do for sure. Who they may go after, who they would go after if something went a certain direction. Any insight into that at all for you?
Yeah. I mean, there's names. They've already got targets identified. They know what positions they want to go after and all that. So it's, it'll be interesting to see what they do. And someone just mentioned the Notre Dame catcher. It's not that they're not going to go after him, but he also entered with a do not contact tag. And that 99% of the time means he already knows where he's going. So
right,
unless he announces for Texas in the next couple of days, he's not coming here.
Yeah. So it'll be an interesting. So the portal opens. It's already open. Guys are jumping in the portal. Yeah, the guys are jumping in the portal right now. So, and the window is what, 2 weeks until the season is over, and then those teams that play in the World Series get another 5 days, right? The players on those teams.
I'm trying to remember the portal window.
If it's like football, I think that's what it is.
It's different. It's long. It's open longer than that for baseball. Yeah. Because after the national championship series last year, they had right at 2 weeks to get everything kind of locked in. But it was so.
Well, baseball fans, over the course of the next few weeks, there will be a lot of movement in people probably moving out and people coming in. So the team's going to look a lot different. And once we get a better, and well, I say once we get a better, I'll ask Zach to come back once we get a better picture of what that stuff starts to look like, and we can kind of talk about that stuff as well. And by the way, I plan on doing this until the baseball season is completely over. So Zach, you are more than welcome to join me and talk baseball and whatever else as we still keep playing baseball. So I plan to be back next Monday night at 8:30 to be talking about whatever's going on in baseball. We'll be talking about the 8 teams that are going to Omaha at that point. So yeah, again, great season this year, in my opinion. I think this program is set up to continue to build on that. Obviously, offensively, we would want to have had a better season, and Sloss has made mention of it multiple times this season. It's not a secret. Like, the offense has to get better to do what he wants to do and be really successful doing what he wants to do. So can they find some bats? I think that's the question. I think there's a lot of guys that are on campus right now that could be guys that could help out there. You look at a guy like Easton Winfield. He's a guy that's really tooly, just just didn't work out for him this year, but that doesn't mean it can't going forward. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see who's in, who's out, all that stuff. We'll keep you guys updated with that. Any chance we lose any coaches? That's a really good question. And I had an interesting conversation over the weekend. And I won't divulge any details, but I based on the conversation I had, I feel like we're pretty good on coaches. But what do you think, Zach?
I think we're solid. I don't think, certainly the Mississippi State situation was one to watch, but that's no longer an issue.
And I think A&M.
I don't think it'll be. I will say this: Weiner and Kane aren't going anywhere. And so, they're not losing any of their top assistants. Whether someone else got plucked away and promoted, yeah, that's always a possibility. But their main guys they're not having to replace anyone big. So,
yeah, and I don't know how much the A&M deal had to do with that, possibly, but it couldn't have hurt that A&M decided to retain, because I think, and I don't necessarily think we might have lost guys to A&M, but once somebody goes from somewhere to go to A&M, then another spot opens up, and then you just kind of get this domino effect of open jobs. And so at that point, the more that happens and the more churn you have there, the more likelihood there is someone's going to come along and go, hey, Noah Kane, you want to come be the head coach at so-and-so? Or Max Weiner, hey, you want to come be the head coach at so-and-so? So, it looks like staff's coming back. Some good pieces coming back. Offensively, some good pieces coming back. Pitching, someone asked earlier in the chat, Dylan Volantis be a starter next year. I think that's the plan. You never know. I mean, maybe that's not even the plan. I think that's the pie in the sky. That's what we want. I think the staff wants him to step up and be that for them next season. And I think he's certainly capable of doing that.
Yeah, I think you pencil in Volantis as a starter next season, and the other guy that I think that has going to get a fair shot at being a starter next season is Burns. He started as a starter at Arizona State before he got injured, and he's got that kind of stuff. The reason he didn't start here was because when he came in, his stuff played up. Instead of throwing 92 to 94, he was able to run up to 99, 100, and so they felt like they could get more out of him out of the pen, and he was still coming back from injury and working through all the things and getting back and getting all that rust off. And so he's still a young guy, proverbially. I mean, he's only a sophomore going into his junior year. So yeah, it's I think those two guys will certainly have a chance to be starters. I would not be surprised if the staff doesn't go out and target at least 2 to 3 guys to be potential rotation guys. But again, you get Luke Harrison back, and he very likely is one of the starters. And from all indications, they were going to get Luke Harrison back. And if you have Max Grubbs and Riojas, now you got your utility guys back, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, this looks a little different now. Now all of a sudden we have 3 defined starters. We have 2 defined utility guys. They can go use one of these young guns to be their closer and layer those guys in like the way they did Jason Flores or a Cade Bing this year. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, this pitching staff just got really, really good, really, really quickly.
Exactly. I mean, I think you look at the way they Jared Spencered it and Luke Harrison did, and then Sundays were kind of a mix until the Spencer injury. Man, that was working out really well. The piece it together on Sunday routine was an outstanding routine. So if you can pull in a third guy and figure out a way to have 3 legit starters, and then you bring some of those pieces back, and then you talk about some of those arms that they're bringing in that could potentially make an impact. It was interesting. I asked Harge before the season, how fast can you turn around a pitching staff? And I think the answer is very fast. In less than a season, our pitching staff turned from night to day in terms of effectiveness. And I think that's going to continue to only get better as they continue to add pieces. So again, the next few weeks will be really interesting to see, who are those guys that maybe move on and go somewhere else? Do they go to the draft, or do they transfer out? Whatever that looks like, and then what types of pieces they can bring in the portal. Zach, man, I appreciate you being here with me tonight, man. Real quick, before we get out of here, I would just like to thank the folks at Occupy Left Field. this was my first time to be able to get down there and hang out with those guys. Man, we had an absolute blast all season long on the road in Vegas, Mississippi State. I know those guys were up at Oklahoma. There were some guys at Arkansas. So that's a good group of baseball fans. We had an absolute joyous time following that around. And thanks to all the families that have really, the players' families that have kind of included us and brought us along for the ride. It's been an absolute blast. We hope to see all you guys back next year. If we don't, we hope you see you again sometime, and best of luck to you folks. With that, that is it for this episode of The Bullpen. We'll be back Monday, 8:30. We'll be talking about who's going to Omaha. We won't predict anything because my bracket was so bad, Zach. Go back and look at my bracket. I bet I got 7 points. And I don't even know how you got points in that bracket, but mine got busted up quick.
Well, so in the supers, everything's set except for one game now. So it's 2
That's
games,
what I'm saying, though. I immediately started dropping points like the second the regionals happened. I kind of took some Hail Marys, man, but I thought I would outsmart the system a little bit. But even some of the ones I thought were like, man, this is a slam dunk. Clearly, Vanderbilt gone, Texas gone. So yeah, man, I'm hurting on the bracket. I don't think I'm winning the bracket, but that's okay. I never win anything.
I haven't looked at my own bracket challenge personally, so I have no idea how I'm doing there. But I know in the big TCU, the Curry Cup that I'm in 4th place. So
I saw that. I actually saw that today on Twitter. I said, I know that dude.
I picked Arizona. I picked West Virginia. I picked some upsets. So I
actually did pick West Virginia. I'm almost pretty sure.
Yeah.
So
I felt good about my bracket so far. Although supers might be a little rough going forward, but
yeah, we'll see. All right, follow us on X for the latest in Texas baseball. Subscribe, get notified at YouTube on Horn Takes. You can find us at Twitter at Horn Takes as well. Zach, appreciate you being here. Thanks to everybody for watching. You guys have a good night. Y'all get hooked.